Listen closely, because what I am about to tell you is one of the strangest, quietest, and most dangerous crises happening in America today. A crisis that hides in plain sight, behind smiling pictures and busy streets, behind high-rise apartments and crowded subways, behind office spaces filled with chatter and digital notifications that never seem to stop. And yet, beneath all that noise, there is a silence so heavy that millions of people are drowning in it without ever saying a word. This is the invisible loneliness epidemic, a crisis that no one posts about, a crisis you will never see trending on social media. Because loneliness is not the kind of pain people brag about, it is the kind of pain people hide, tuck away, and carry like an invisible weight that gets heavier every single day. And what makes this epidemic terrifying is that it is not happening in some distant corner of society. It is happening inside the most connected generation in history, inside the country with limitless communication tools, inside a world where everyone has Wi-Fi but very few people have actual human connection. You may not realize it yet, but loneliness is rewriting the emotional landscape of an entire nation, shaping decisions, influencing politics, deepening divisions, damaging mental health, and altering the way people see themselves and others. And whether you know it or not, this epidemic has touched your life too, in one way or another. Here is the hard truth. You can have thousands of followers and still feel invisible. You can live in a big city and still feel unseen. You can have a job, a schedule, a family group chat, and still feel like no one really knows you, the real you, the you behind the curated photos and carefully typed messages. Loneliness is not simply the absence of people. It is the absence of being understood, the absence of being valued, the absence of being emotionally held in a world that has become much louder than it has become warmer. In 2025, loneliness has grown so rapidly in the United States that it now resembles a shadow following every demographic. The young, the old, the middle-aged, the wealthy, the poor, the introverts, the extroverts, the immigrants, the citizens. It is not selective, it is not biased, it is not predictable. It is simply everywhere, woven into the routines of millions. If you have ever sat in a room full of people and still felt disconnected, if you have ever scrolled endlessly hoping to feel something, if you have ever felt like your life is happening around you but not with you, then you too have tasted the loneliness that so many Americans are silently suffocating under. And the question is, how did we get here? How did one of the most hyper-connected societies in human history become one of the loneliest? How did a generation with unlimited access to information become a generation starving for connection? How did the world go from community-centered to self-centered, from collective belonging to individual isolation, from neighborhood friendships to digital strangers? To understand it, you have to look beyond the surface, beyond the headlines, beyond the trending conversations, and into the subtle psychological shifts that happened quietly over the last decade, shifts that altered the way people relate, trust, communicate, and build relationships. Technology promised connection but delivered comparison. Social media promised community but delivered performance. Convenience promised comfort but delivered emotional distance. Independence promised freedom but delivered isolation. People began replacing real conversations with quick interactions, eye contact with screen contact, vulnerability with filters, and commitment with convenience. Somewhere along the way, America became a place where everyone is busy but few people are truly bonded, where people know how to text but not how to talk, where they know how to update but not how to open up, where they know how to entertain but not how to emotionally engage. And the impact has been devastating. Loneliness today is not just emotional pain. It is a psychological, financial, and even physical burden, weakening mental resilience, increasing anxiety, lowering productivity, intensifying stress, and pushing people into cycles that affect their relationships, habits, decisions, self-worth, and even their health. Studies show that chronic loneliness has the same impact on mortality as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, the same psychological toll as chronic stress, and the same emotional damage as unresolved trauma. It is not just loneliness, it is a silent killer that moves slowly, invisibly, and deeply. But what makes the loneliness epidemic especially heartbreaking is that it does not always look like loneliness. Sometimes it looks like the coworker who laughs loudly at the office but cries quietly at home. Sometimes it looks like the friend who is always available but never speaks about how they feel. Sometimes it looks like the young woman who posts beautiful photos but feels disconnected from everyone around her. Sometimes it looks like the man who works long hours not because he loves his job, but because he has nothing else to go home to. Sometimes it looks like the teenager who spends hours gaming because the virtual world is the only place where someone acknowledges their existence. Loneliness has millions of disguises, and the world has mastered the art of pretending everything is fine. To understand how deep this runs, think of America's current lifestyle. Most people are too busy to build real relationships, too stressed to invest emotionally, too distracted to be present, too exhausted to be intentional. People rush from task to task without pausing to connect. They live in individual units, separated by walls, schedules, and cold routines. Even friendships have begun to feel like emotional transactions, people checking in only when they need something. The culture says, be strong, be independent, be self-sufficient. But no one reminds people that humans were never meant to do life alone. Community is not optional. Connection is not luxury. Belonging is not a bonus. It is a biological requirement. When people lack it, they decline. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, even financially. So what is the real price of loneliness? The price is minds that feel heavy, hearts that feel numb, relationships that feel shallow, motivation that feels hollow, decisions that feel uncertain, and lives that feel like they are being lived outside the body. The price is the man who has money but no meaning, the woman who has followers but no friends, the child who has toys but no warm conversation, the teenager who has a phone but no one to talk to, the adult who has co-workers but no confidants. And the most tragic part is that loneliness convinces people that they are the only ones feeling this way, when in reality millions are silently experiencing the same ache. Loneliness is not just an emotional state, it is a psychological trap. The more lonely a person feels, the harder it becomes to reach out, the harder it becomes to trust, the harder it becomes to initiate connection. Loneliness makes people feel unworthy of connection, uninteresting, unimportant, invisible. It makes them overthink every social interaction, doubt every bond, fear rejection, and expect disappointment. It makes them withdraw, and that withdrawal creates even more loneliness, feeding a cycle that becomes harder to escape the longer it continues. In America today, this cycle is everywhere. People are surrounded by noise but starving for depth, scrolling through content but craving connection, communicating constantly but not feeling understood. People have grown so used to performing that they no longer know how to be vulnerable. They have grown so used to pretending that they no longer know how to open up. They have grown so used to hiding their emotions that they no longer know how to be seen. But let me tell you something important. Loneliness is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that you are human. Humans are wired for connection, wired for belonging, wired for relationships that are safe, consistent, warm, and attentive. The real issue is not that people are lonely. The real issue is that the world has forgotten how to connect deeply. So how do we break the cycle? It begins with awareness, with honesty, with acknowledging that loneliness is real and widespread. It begins with dropping the performance and allowing authenticity. It begins with being present, being intentional, being emotionally honest. It begins with understanding that community is built, not stumbled upon. It begins with reaching out even when it feels awkward, showing vulnerability even when it feels risky, choosing depth over distraction, connection over convenience. If America wants to heal, people have to relearn how to connect. They have to slow down long enough to see each other. They have to choose conversations that go beyond small talk. They have to check in not just through messages, but through meaningful time. They have to rebuild trust, patience, and emotional presence. Because loneliness cannot be solved with more apps, more distractions, or more productivity. It can only be solved with more humanity. And maybe, as you listen to this, you realize that some part of this message hits closer to home than you expected. Maybe you realize that you have been carrying a quiet loneliness inside you, a loneliness you never talk about but feel deeply. Maybe this is your reminder that your need for connection is not weakness. It is wired into your DNA. Maybe this is your invitation to reach out, to reconnect, to rebuild your emotional world one human link at a time. Because the invisible loneliness epidemic in America is not just a social crisis. It is a human story, a story of people longing for presence, belonging, and understanding. And if this video reaches even one person who feels unseen and helps them feel understood, then this story is no longer about loneliness. It is about healing. If this resonated with you, if it made you think, if it opened your eyes, then do something powerful right now. Like the video, drop a comment sharing your thoughts, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss new uploads. Someone else out there needs this message too, and your engagement helps it reach them.